This video has been brought to you as a free public service, courtesy of a 3-year collaboration between Armory Center for the Arts and Pasadena Unified School District. Made possible by a grant from the U.S. Department of Education with additional support from the Clarence E. Charitable Foundation. Artful Connections with Math has been formally evaluated by CRESST, the National Center for Research on Evaluation, Standards, and Student Testing at the University of California, Los Angeles. For more Artful Connections with Math video lessons, or to learn more about professional development opportunities through Armory Center for the Arts, visit armoryarts.org/math. Thank you. Welcome to Artful Connections with Math, coin rubbing and print composition. What are the artistic and mathematical attributes of money? This lesson's goal is for students to create a layered composition consisting of coin rubbings, a watercolor wash, and ink prints of coins they design. Please note that unlike other videos in this series, we will be demonstrating 2 different ways to approach the art-making activity. One involves applying watercolor paint directly onto the coin rubbing surface. The other will involve overlaying a translucent vellum rubbing on an abstract watercolor wash. We'll start by demonstrating the direct application method first, then we'll demonstrate the translucent vellum method. Over the course of this lesson, your second grade students will be able to skip count by 5s, 10s, and 100s to calculate the value of their composition, create and solve word problems involving money, create rubbings that show the detail of coin designs, and design and print their own coin. This lesson addresses a number of Common Core standards for mathematics, as well as visual arts content standards. Visit armoryarts.org/CR1 to download a PDF of this entire lesson plan, which outlines content standards addressed, key vocabulary words, and also includes ideas for accommodations, variations, and extensions of this lesson not covered in the video. For this lesson, you'll need tape, watercolors and brushes, scratch foam, printing ink, watercolor paper and/or drawing paper, coin manipulatives, rayers, scissors, vellum, colored pencils, and water cups. In their math journals, ask your students to create one rubbing for each coin and write the cent value next to it. Later, during the art lesson, your students will assign different colors to their coins. Name each coin and explain how it makes up part of a dollar. For example, there are 100 pennies in $1. Count by 5s to see that there are 20 nickels in $1. Count by 10s to see that there are 10 dimes in $1, and so on. Notice the different sizes of coins and how they relate to cash value. For example, the $50 is the largest coin and the largest denomination, but pennies are larger than dimes, even though dimes are worth more than pennies. Explain that combinations of coins have the same value as other coins. For example, 5 pennies equals 1 nickel. Instruct students to make $1.23 with the coins on their desk and discuss how they came up with different ways to reach the same value. Before we go into the art activity, let's access prior knowledge. Ask your students questions like, what do you know about our system of money? What does looking at coins tell us about their value? What are some symbols that appear on money? Tell your students about the life and work of artist Robert Rauschenberg. Visit armoryarts.org/CR1 to download a PDF of this entire lesson plan, which includes biographical information as well as images of Rauschenberg's art. Show your students Rauschenberg's yellow body painting and ask them questions like, what do you see? What images do you recognize? How would you describe the color you see in this image? Describe different layers you see. Why do you think the artist has combined these different types of images? What ideas do you think this artist is trying to communicate through this image? Using the coin rubbings in their math journals from the pre-session math lesson, ask your students to assign one color for each coin. Then, have your students tape coins to drawing paper using strips of tape long enough to tape a few coins at a time, but not so long that the tape gets twisted. If desired, you can give your class symmetry guidelines for the coin composition. Also, you can set a common dollar value for students to compose around. Have your students turn the paper over and use colored pencil to create their coin rubbing composition, using the color key they established earlier. Students may have to flip their paper back and forth to check which coin they are rubbing. Have students calculate the value of the coins in their composition by grouping coins in categories. For example, add all pennies together. Skip count by fives to add all nickels together. Skip count by tens to add all dimes together. Group quarters in groups of 4 and add together. Group half dollars in groups of 2 and add together. It's important to note that some students may want to count how many coins they have instead of calculating how much their coins are worth. Have your students remove the coins carefully as not to rip the paper, then cover paper in a watercolor wash. In closing, ask your students questions like, how did you decide which coins to use when making your pattern? What surprised you about how your design came out? What was the monetary value of your design? Before we go into session 2, let's access prior knowledge. Ask your students questions like, who can describe the art process we did last week? What did you learn about coins while doing your coin rubbings? How can we use both math and art to understand money? What do you know about using paint? Show your students images of the Iceni coin and rubbing included in this lesson plan. Visit armoryarts.org/CR1 to download this entire lesson plan, which contains the Iceni coin images, as well as historical information about the Iceni tribe. Tell your students that artists design coins and ask them the following questions. What shapes do you notice? How do you think this texture would feel if you rubbed your hand on it? How does the rubbing show the texture of the coin? What symbols on the coin do you recognize? Why do you think coins are made out of metal and not another material? What kinds of artistic decisions do you think designers of these coins made? Have your students create sketches of designs for their own coins in their math journals. Then, trace coin designs from their math journal onto the tracing paper. Be sure to place the tracing paper upside down so the print doesn't come out backwards on the printing foam. This is especially important if there are numbers or words on their coin design. Use a dull colored pencil to trace over all lines on the tracing paper to etch the design into printing foam. Be aware that the tracing paper may rip, but this is okay. Just keep transferring the design onto the scratch foam. Finished? Using scissors, carefully cut out the scratch foam coin, apply printer's ink to the coin face, and firmly print onto the coin rubbing composition. It's helpful to place newsprint on the back of the scratch foam coin, as this will keep the process less messy. Students can print more than once without re-inking. This is known as a ghost print. If your students made multiple coins, they can print multiple images. They can also calculate the value of their printed coins. While students are waiting to print, they can also use colored pencils to draw into the negative space between coin rubbings to enhance their composition. Display students' artwork and ask the following questions. What do you see? What images can you recognize in the different layers? How would you describe the color you see in this image? Why do you think the artist combined these different types of images? What part of Rauschenberg's work inspired you to create your artwork? This lesson can also be accomplished in 3 sessions using a combination of coin rubbings on translucent vellum paper overlaid onto a watercolor composition that includes the coin printing techniques we just observed. This variation is very simple and similar to what we just demonstrated. Start by arranging the coins onto the translucent vellum, and then proceed with the color coding and rubbing. The big difference? Don't apply the watercolor wash to the vellum. Instead, put the rubbing aside for later. For Session 2, review the color wheel and notions of warm and cool colors with your class. Then, demonstrate how to create a wet-on-wet watercolor wash and ask your students to create their own, either using half-warm, half-cool color schemes or something of their own design. Conclude Session 2 by having your students recall the Iceni coin designs, then sketching large coin designs of their own in their math journals. Finally, Session 3 begins with the Rauschenberg art observation, followed by the coin stamp creation and stamping onto the watercolor wash. The artwork is completed by placing the translucent coin rubbing over the watercolor coin stamp composition. Have your students share their composition with a partner and ask them to find the value. Ask your students to calculate the value of all the compositions at the table, or figure out which composition represents the least or greatest amount at the table. Finally, have your students subtract the composition with the least amount from the composition with the greatest amount. Thanks for joining us today. To download a PDF of this complete lesson plan, visit armoryarts.org/CR1. To make more Artful Connections with math, visit armoryarts.org/math. Thank you.